And we're back.
Welcome to No Direction Beyond, your Starfinder news, reviews, and interviews podcast. I'm Alexander Agunas, No Direction's Everyman Gamer, and for the first time in what feels like months, I am back with a full crew of of the galaxy's most intrepid Starfinders.
Yeah, I'm James. I wrote Code Switch.
I'm Vanessa Hoskins.
And we are here today with some news for you from the future, because we're going to be reviewing a product that technically won't be out yet for another week, I'm told. Cool. I guess we're having some of those future sight powers, just like the new class we're going to be reviewing.
Ooh, is it the empath?
Yes.
Ooh, the psychic. Wait, no.
Absolutely.
I saw this in a vision. It was the medium.
You know what? I feel like if Starfinder gets a medium before Mark Seifter gets to publish his Hyrode medium, he will have a fit.
Well,
but the actual class that we're looking at today is going to be the Precog, but that's only a very small part of our episode. We are going to be looking at Galactic Magic. If this book, I guess is the best way to put it, is essentially the ultimate magic of the Starfinder universe, right?
Yes.
We've had our advanced player's guide in Com.
Fix your mic. It's too loud. You're coming in hot. You're so excited. You're just blowing out the mic. It's very exciting. I know. Pre-game, we're checking all the levels and everything sounds great. And then we get into the show and he's just so excited. Try it again.
I exploded. Does it sound better?
Yes. Beautiful.
Okay, cool. So we're going to be looking over Galactic Magic, which is kind of like Starfinder's answer to Ultimate Magic from way back in first edition Pathfinder. If you want to compare it to second edition, it's kind of like Secrets of Magic, I think is a pretty good comparison.
Yeah, I'd say that's
fair enough. Fair enough, James. All right, so this is it's a standard size Starfinder book, but this is a big topic with a lot of nuance for us to look at today.
Mm-hmm.
And there will be some secrets, but since we are getting a glimpse from the future, we aren't going to fully tell you everything that's in this book. Ultimately, we do want you to buy it after all so that we can get the next book. Where do you think we should start? Probably at the beginning, right? With the Precog class?
It's a very good place to start.
Excellent. All right. Who would like to start by going over the specs for the Precog?
What?
The Precog itself has its key ability score of Dex, which is the most important part to me anyway. Because I saw that and thought I had to do a double take, having all your DCs based off that, and still having your spells per day based off of intelligence, which is a good way to split you up. Also, they have weapon or armor proficiency, light armor. You get skill ranks per level, which are 6. Stamina points are 5+ con mod. It's, that normal stuff. Also super weird and also kind of neat. Their weapon proficiency is basic melee, small arms, and one of the following. So you actually get a choice of what your third proficiency is, which is I think the first time we've seen that.
Yeah.
It includes advanced melees, long arm, and sniper rifles.
Yeah,
it's kind of like getting a free feat. It's really cool.
A little bit, yeah, because there's some class builds that gift you things or archetypes that take things away and trade, but not baked into the class usually. Not just part of the class is pick an extra weapon proficiency. And the neat part is you, because of how the third level weapon specialization works, whatever you pick there continues to advance, and the other ones wouldn't automatically anyway. So Definitely. It really helps you figure out your build.
Yeah, and I think that pointing that out is a good place to start with the Precog. This class is a class that bucks a lot of expectations for Starfinder classes and spellcasters, especially in general. One of the first things that I saw that I noticed that was different is that this might be like the first spellcasting class I've ever seen that does not have will as a good saving throw bonus. It has reflex instead. This is like dodge the class.
Well, also because its main thing is dexterity, right? That's its key ability score. So you really are focusing on dex, and intelligence is yes, but you also get spells. And I think it's really a secondary role. I know it's a spellcaster, right? I know it's supposed to be a very similar stat block to a Technomancer or a Mystic, but how the Technomancer and the Mystic ends up being more spellcasty, almost between the Technomancer and the Precog is more martially.
Definitely.
I think looking through it.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. And there are a lot of options that you can take as you level up and improve that make you actually pretty darn good with in fighting with actual weapons. I think that's another thing that makes this class a little like it's kind of jarring because like for a lot of classes, what you'll typically do is you'll take intelligence as your primary stat, and then you'll usually pick either con or dexterity as your secondary one, because at the end of the day, if you run out of spells, which you probably will, you still need to shoot people with guns. so most spellcasters still have a decent dexterity. This class just kind of like flips what you're expected to have, and it's very interesting in my opinion because of it. A lot of what you see from the precog is very standard. The spells is an intelligence-based spellcaster. It's basically like the same rules as Technomancer, except they have the precog spell list instead of the Technomancer spell list. Where things start really, where things really start changing is when you get your anchor. Anchor is kind of like the archetype of the class, the way that soldiers have fighting styles or vanguards have aspects. It's your relationship to time and why you are essentially an anomaly in time. You have focal abilities that give you specific like benefits when you use your paradox in certain ways. You have an anchor that gives you a more powerful effect when you can as you level up. And then from there, you have a greater anchor eventually too. You also get your paradox, which is, I guess the best way to put it is reroll dice, but not reroll dice, right?
It's a lot like prescience.
Yes. You take a bunch of d20s. It's 1 plus half your dex modifier with a minimum of 2, and you roll them, and then you record the numbers, and then throughout the day you are allowed to substitute those numbers with specific statistics. You can't sub a so if you roll a natural 1, like you sub in the natural 1 effects if you choose a paradox. But it does let you swap around. It's very weird, but cool, but weird.
Yeah, in general, the foci powers, or what you choose is kind of like the reason why you're there, determines what you can roll, and your level as it goes up are the different things that you can replace those with, as well as your special power, whose name just eludes me at the moment. But they do a really good job as you look through the powers of getting ways to use your high rolls and getting ways to use your low rolls.
Yeah, that's really smart.
It's so the best way that I can put it is that the gameplay is, like when you're playing Starfinder and you're playing a spellcaster, you generally want to take spells that target different saving throws and some that have attacks, so you have tools. It's almost the same with the precog, where you want to take some abilities that really want you to sub in high numbers and then other abilities that want lower numbers. So that way you have like different ways you can use all of your dice. And then some abilities just eat them. Like if you want to be James and just pick up a nice big bucket of dice and chomp on them because they're naughty, you can do that.
Yeah, there's one of the powers you could choose is just change whatever your damage dice rolls are to your precog rolls to a maximum of whatever that damage dice is.
Definitely.
So you roll a 1 on that disintegrator rifle. You don't like that, you just sub in your 17 rolled precog die. There you go, and you can do it for as many dice as you have precogs. I believe there's an upper limit to them, but it's a pretty high limit.
That's pretty cool, though.
Yeah. You get a fair number of them. The other thing you get is this class is structured like a Starfinder. It's structured like Witch Warper and Technomancer, as in like you have an ability you can pick from at like 1st level, then 5th level, and you kind of go up every few levels like that.
Yeah, a lot of Starfinder classes work that way, where you've got these menus to just sort of pick out things, and every few levels, you get a new sort of set of choices. You can still pick from the old ones. Yeah,
they're called temporal anomalies, and they're very cool. At 3rd level, you get the ability where you could start spending your paradox dice to give an ally an AC bonus as an insight bonus, and you can just be like, "Hey, you're not going to get hit by that." The other thing I think that's really cool about this class is it has some of the best ability names I've seen. It's got temporal aggression, which is a great name. Anything that makes it sound like time is going to just punch me is wonderful, in my opinion. That's the ability James was talking about, where you can treat the results of your paradox dice. Your weapon damage dice is either your paradox dice or the weapons result, whichever is lower, which is pretty good. I think it's pretty cool, at least. And then you start getting, as you get higher level, you can actually like burn your resolve points in order to get more paradoxes to throw. And it's a cool class. I like it. Overall, if you are somebody who is looking at this class from the playtest, in my opinion, the only thing that I saw that looked different from what we got in the playtest is that this is an intelligence-based caster instead of a dex-based caster. Did you guys notice anything different from the playtest?
Sort of. It's a dex for DCs and your key abilities, but it's int for your spells per day.
Yeah.
Makes
so they
slightly more mad, but because dex already does AC into hit, it's not that mad. It's only two abilities.
Yeah, but like when I was looking over the actual paradoxes, they're all the same ones. I'm conflicted about that, to be completely honest with you, because the same thing happened with Nanocite, and it happened with all the classes in Com. You know, at the very least, correct me if I'm wrong, Vanessa, but it feels like when Pathfinder does a new class, like the class you get in the playtest is like a sample. It's like, this is what our concept is, and then they add more when the book comes out. And for us, it feels like we just get the class early.
I feel like ever since second edition playtest, the Pathfinder playtests have been more, we already kind of know what we want to do, but we're not going to show you that. What we're going to do is show you the extremes, right? So if they have a target that they think they're going to hit, they'll start showing you things to all the perimeters of that target. Like if they're pushing the envelope one direction or the other, basically to see where people say, ooh, that's really cool. Or to see where people go, why would you do that? That's terrible. And that really helps them figure out exactly where they want to land. Anything that they're sure is going to be in there where they're like, well, we know we're going to do this, probably isn't going to be in there. Like probably isn't going to be part of the playtest because they already know it's going to work.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what I'm saying about the precog, where like this document, like the only difference is at the end of the document has rules for putting archetypes on precogs, and it has the graft, which is nice because usually we have to wait until usually we have to wait till an alien archive to get a class graft. So like I'm glad that class graft is here.
I actually love this much better because if I'm writing an adventure and I've got a precog in it, I don't want to have Galactic Magic open and whatever, monster book the class craft is in and keep looking back and forth. I can just look through and be like, well, I'm doing CR8, so here's the things I need to pick, and I'm already in the right section of the correct book. Makes it a lot easier to build those. So that was a good move.
I agree with that. I think that's a good move. I think that I just wish that Starfinder classes actually started putting like some new content in the class for when it was released, like I feel like this isn't anything new. This is all stuff I've seen, and a lot of the classes feel very bare bones when they're launched, and a lot of them don't really get new content very quickly because I mean, like, the Starfinder Adventure Path line has legitimately been better about putting new content into those books and like getting them out and being like, here's some new archetypes and spells and stuff. But like I haven't seen a new Vanguard aspect come out. I haven't seen anything new for the Nanocite come out. It's been out for a year now. Well,
until this book, there's a lot of stuff in here for the other classes. So it is expanding on them. And I think a lot of that is the nature of books like this, right? So you're calling it Galactic Magic. There's certain things you're going to have to address, like 100+ spells. If it's called Galactic Magic, you better stuff it full of spells. When a new book comes out, they want to see gear, especially with this class in here. So you got to have gear for it. Like all these things they're putting in there. And then you have this class. Well, they could have probably given us 4-6 more pages, like a few more spreads of extra content and extra things to do. But there's 2 reasons that I think that they don't. One is it's too overwhelming, right? You get a brand new class, a brand new concept, and you want to sort of say, what is the essence of this class without getting too wazoo, and just say, here, let's give you like 4 max, like 3, 4, maybe 5 big options, and then just go from there. And then later we can add some stuff into it. So, some more maybe on the fringes of what you think about when you think of precog sort of ideas.
I hear what you're saying. I also still think that, it does not feel good to have basically the whole class put out in the playtest and nothing new to really play with when it's actually published. But that's just my opinion.
I mean, I think entirely differently. These are things that are actually confirmed and are in versus like there's more, what are those choices for your anchors? There's more power choices. There is more. Your base stuff is the same, but like, you have a whole ability that you didn't go through testing. I mean, if you want people to like stuff and not have to go back and rewrite stuff, a shifter. You give it all up front.
Oh man, that was a blow. Wow.
Oh. Okay, so because it's me, I have a very important question about precog before we move on.
Sure.
What is your recommendation for the best way I can make a punch girl out of this?
I thought you were going to ask me like Lauren's thing with how to make a Viking out of the precog. I wasn't prepared to do that, but I could do Punch Girl.
Yeah,
this class.
I don't ask about Vikings. That's Lauren's thing. I want to play bare knuckled martial artist for everything.
Yeah, definitely. So I think the first thing that you're probably going to want to do is you're going to want to pick advanced melee weapons as your free weapon proficiency at first level. That way you'll get weapon specialization with it at level 3 for free as well. Okay. And there's also lots of really good advanced melee weapon gauntlets, because I mean, sure, you could go and you could take improved unarmed strike, but I know you definitely want to punch people with that big giant glove. Am I right?
Heck yes, that sounds very cool. I will definitely punch people with a giant glove.
You're obviously going to be really happy at level 4 when you get the ability to switch out your dice rolls for your weapon damage rolls with paradoxes for free. That way, if you roll lumber, totally. I'd say the first thing that this class gets that really makes me think of like this is the Punch Girl option, right? At higher levels, you get the ability to make yourself a full BAB spellcaster.
Yeah.
You're supposed to.
Yeah. Now it's a very high level ability. It's one of their 14th level abilities, but you can do it. And then you're going to at 5th level, you'll probably want Time Hardened, which increases the maximum hit points and stamina points you get from the class by 1 every level. So that puts you at 6 hit points per level, which is comparative to an operative, rather than 5 hit points per level, which means you're a squishy technomancer.
Squishy caster. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Okay. You're gonna want time walk. And it's dimensional agility. You walk over your full attack and then you decide if you stay there or go back to where you were.
Robin strategy.
Love it. It reminds me of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s, that like heartbeat person who can move a ton in a heartbeat, but as soon as her heart beat again, she snaps back.
Yes.
You run up and punch someone, and then whoop, back you go.
Now, the thing that I haven't decided is which one of these anchors is best. I'm leaning towards Time Warp right now, because Time Warp lets you use your paradoxes, which means like you roll the d20 and you can sub the result in for a specific type of check. It lets you use them on initiative checks.
Yeah.
Punch Girl goes faster.
That is like the number one use for prescience.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, wait. Oh my goodness. Hold on. Just now on this podcast, I had an idea and it's sinking in. Okay, here we go. It is a 3-player character concept build. Stay with me. 3 characters, they're sisters. The oldest sister is a mystic with the Akashic record build. The middle sister is a witch warper, and the youngest sister is a precog who sees the future. And then you have the 3 sisters of time. Past, present, and future.
We'll get to that because this book has a witch warper fighting option.
Yes. Okay, I want to do that with some time. Yeah. That sounds so cool.
One more thing that you might consider wanting to take as one of your anomaly, as one of your temporal anomaly abilities is there's an ability called Safeguard that as a reaction when you take damage, you can spend a paradox to reduce the damage you take by an amount equal to the die roll that you sacrificed up to 5. And then that number goes up to 10 at 6th level, 15 at 9th level, and then 20 at 20th level.
That makes you like a little baby Vanguard.
It does. It makes you a little baby Vanguard. Baby Vanguard. But have we dwelled upon the precog enough? Should we start talking about some of the other goodies other classes get in here?
Yeah, there's a bunch of other stuff. So let's just go through them. Up next is the biohacker, who I honestly think gets the best art.
Yes.
You got a little Raxlight just mixing stuff together, who is adorable, and that is it. Now I want to play a biohacker just to play that character.
I want to say that like the class content in this book, in terms of like putting alien art in for each of the classes, is the game is so good. Like there's like a Hanukkah, one of like the magical raptor people. There's the Raxolite. There's like I think one of the Osharu slug guys. Like there's so much good art in this book. One of the things Starfinder does really well that I wish Pathfinder would really kind of take is that Starfinder knows that it is a game where you're supposed to be able to play the Cantina, and it's not afraid to use all of its different species in player books to say, hey, this could be you. Whereas like Pathfinder is much more about just using the core characters over and over again, and then like Tengu. So
and then Tengu.
I'm referring to the Oracle. It's fine.
They're leaning into Leshies. It's fine. But no, you're right. They do keep going over all of these different playable species and bringing them in different art to show you like you can be a little floating brain if you want. It's cool. You can do that. You can just be a nose with a trackball for feet.
Yes. So for Biohacker, since we're here talking about it,
sure.
There's a new alternate class feature that's pretty cool where you hack ley lines, but that's not what I think is probably the most powerful thing here.
Did you just glaze over hacking ley lines?
I did. Would you like to go over it before I talk about the thing that I think is the most powerful in this section?
No, let's just take a moment to sit with it.
Yeah, you basically what you do is that instead of taking your biohacks and sticking them into people, you yeet your vials of biohacks at the ground, and then they explode and draw power from ley lines where they hit. It's great. It's really cool.
When did the Ultra Science Mad Scientist class become a magic hacker? This is so cool.
Galactic Magic, that's one. Also,
that's what
I don't know if you remember, but the last book that came out, the biohacker got an ability that lets them just turn into a sapient ooze.
No, that's super cool. Yeah, definitely.
There's a lot of crazy stuff, but the best way to describe Leyline Hacker is it is essentially infinite worlds as a biohacker class.
Yes,
feature.
Yeah, 110% without all the extra faff about it.
Yes, it honestly. In some ways, it's better because you get all your biohacks back when you rest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, but you did want to point out one thing that the biohacker got. That was cool.
I did. It's called thaumaturgy. Oh my gosh, it's a new field of study. What makes this so crazy is that as a biohacker boost, you could just give people spell resistance in a game that doesn't give you spell resistance. Like nobody gets spell resistance in Starfinder.
Ever. Yeah.
And the biohacker's just like, you've got spell resistance now.
See, that was cool until I read the breakthrough for magical renewal, which is just giving people back spells.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You just inject the magic back into their body.
And that's actually a theme amongst a lot of the class features is giving and taking spells. Like just getting shot and losing a spell slot, which is hilarious.
You're just going to shoot away your magic.
I really like there is somebody must have heard that like when I heard the words biohacker, I assumed that meant hacking life, which means changing what they look like, because somebody put in this book, and whoever wrote this section, thank you. It's called morphing hack, where as once per day as a standard action, you can use a special biohack against somebody that polymorphs them. And it could be against an unwilling creature if you want to take your luck. You could just be like, poof, guess what? You now have horns. Enjoy. It's great. The polymorph spell scales as you level up, going all the way up to 6th level, which is great. Very good. You do have to pick a specific polymorph form in order for what you turn people into, but you can learn the theorem multiple times, which gives you an additional use of it and an additional polymorph form. So that's pretty cool. I do like that.
That's super cool. Shout out to Evil Robot Games, who in chat said, Biohacker Oprah GIF. You get a spell resist. You get spell resist. Everyone gets spell resist.
Well, I mean, the thing is like it lasts for biohack duration, which is 3 plus your either intelligence or wisdom modifier. So like it'll take a couple of rounds, but you could literally do that. You could just be like spell resistance. We're all resistant. Enjoy. The other thing that's really cool is that there is a ampule expertise ability where you just mass produce spell ampules when you make your biohacks. And that's really cool.
Yeah.
It's great. I'm very, very, very happy with that. I think that's going to be a mainstay for the biohacker. I think a lot of biohackers are going to want that one.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on. We got more to cover.
So James, you know a lot about the Envoy. Can you tell us about this one?
So as far as the psychic expertise part of it, it gives you a lot of things that if you were looking at the archetype Phrenic Amp, Phrenic Adept,
yeah.
You'd get a lot of the same stuff. There are some like bonuses to it. It changes how your spell expertise works, but it basically gives you telepathy that's not language dependent. You get blind sight, blind sense, that increases in range. You start being able to cast spells like kind of how you could before with taking the psychic spell line feat from the core rulebook. And then there's like Spell Speaker, which allows you to like change how spells around you are working, and those are all good. I think it's very dense.
Yes.
And some of those abilities are going to be very dependent on how many spellcasters you have in a party and what you're actually trying to do. Because there's going to be plenty of times where this doesn't do a whole ton, which is fine. Sometimes you're just going to be, it's the life of an envoy. You choose a specialization. There's some improvisations that you get with Spell Speaker that you wouldn't get otherwise, where the most impactful one, I think anyway, is Borrowed Arcana that lets you cast other people's spells.
Yeah.
Yes.
Spending resolve. Yeah. Also, the art on page 21 is amazing. I don't know why it's so smooth.
Smooth dinosaur.
It's like the lowest like poly dinosaur I've ever seen, and I love it. I would die for it.
I'm really surprised that you didn't call out Reprimand Spell, which is hilarious. The spell is you literally scold a spell out of existence.
There's this like I don't know, something's in front of you, and you're like, what is this thing? And you're just like, hey, you, what are you doing with your life? Get out of here. Go back. Just dissipate. Just stop it. No.
And it
you don't belong here.
Like dispel magic. Oh my god. It's so
ridiculous.
Funny.
It's so silly.
It's cool. It's a great ability. It's not casting somebody else's spells.
That's true.
No, but it's funnier.
It is much funnier. And if I ever make a grandma envoy, I'm definitely going to take that. And that will be a mainstay.
Amazing.
Oh my gosh.
Explosive blast. Why don't you make something of yourself?
Oh my gosh. All right. We got a ton of ground to cover. Let's go into mechanic.
Yeah.
The mechanic has some pretty cool stuff. They basically can become mechanical technicians or mystical technicians rather that specialize in like hybrid items and things. It's really cool.
It's super cool. It's like the Magitech mechanic, and yes. I love it. It's awesome.
Must
I
have
highly
one
recommend
named Sid.
it. Indeed. They also have an ability that I am very happy to see. They first of all get an ability where they can just use spell chips essentially as if they were spell gems, which is great. And they don't need the spell on their list. They also have an ability that I think is super strong and cool. Fusion Specialist, which lets them apply a weapon fusion to a weapon and have it function after 1 hour instead of 24 hours.
Oh yeah, that is so good.
And once per day, you can spend a resolve point to slap a fusion steel on a weapon and have it function immediately. So if you're like us and you walk into a heck hole and the heck hole is filled with chitons, or Velstrax is what they're called now, and it's filled with Velstrax, and you're like, wow, it would be great if we could turn off the regeneration with a holy weapon. Anybody got one of those? The answer is slap, sticker.
Yeah. Yep.
Or fighting ghosts if you don't have any energy weapons.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Can you just imagine being like, I don't know, the strawberry machine cake mechanic with like your little thing of stickers and you're like, no, what do we need today? A holy weapon, got it.
Yeah.
Boom, here's a sticker for you. And it's like some little chibi angel or something playing a harp. And you're like, well, now it's a holy weapon.
Mm-hmm. See, I'd play that more likely than the Grandma Envoy.
Oh, it looks like Dennis Mullen is in chat and he is saying that he wrote all the cool mechanic stuff. Thanks. It's the really good stuff.
Oh yeah.
Very cool. Let's go to Mystic next. I am gonna go and say that I like this stuff. I think the game needs an arcane and a first world connection. They are cool and they do cool things. I do think, and I'm going to point out there are like 3 epiphanies here, which is the alternate class feature that lets you swap mystic abilities for different ones. As much as I think this game needed both of these connections, I wish it only had one and it had more epiphanies, because I feel like mystics are going to look at this book and they're going to feel like they didn't get anything cool and new besides the new spells on their spell list, which they may or may not be able to attain.
I mean, that's still pretty cool. But yeah, if you don't want to be an arcane mystic and you don't want to be a first world mystic, you might be like, eh. But I can see that. But I also think that those are 2 really powerful options they've added, so I'm not mad about it.
Yeah, and that's sort of the thing. Like, they're very good. And even if you're playing a mystic, right, a regular vanilla mystic, you could still use Calm to pick up powers from these other connections. Like, there's the one that lets you grab additional ones. So like, you could still use this content, but I definitely think that like the initial reaction from a lot of Mystic players is going to be, this is cool. I can't add this to my existing Mystic. I picked my connection 4 levels ago. So, but again, I think it's good. Like, there's nothing about this that I think is bad. If you're making a new Mystic, First World Mystic is really cool. It is the Fey bloodline Mystic that you never knew you wanted until you read this.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
I will say there's 2 things I think in this book, if you are worried about being a Mystic and not getting anything: the alternate variant spellcasting, where you can have a spell book, or the overview of the gods, because it does give alternate theme knowledge as well as a favorite weapon.
That's true.
It does build you out a bit.
Yeah,
that's fair.
That's true.
Okay.
I shout out to Mystic Step. It's a 9th level epiphany that lets you just float above the ground, and it's basically constant featherfall, but it lets you float above the ground 6 inches forever, just constantly, and you can be Orko from He-Man, just a little like.
it's like over the haters.
It's like having levitate, the priest spell from World of Warcraft.
Yes, you
so,
just like.
So this is the first book that's been out since the Nanosite has been published, and the Nanosite has a section in this book now. It's got Eldritch Nanites, which essentially lets you use your Nanites to cast Technomancer spells. It's very similar to, it's super cool. It's very similar to the Envoy option in COM that gives the Envoy a very limited, curated list of Mystic spells. This is Technomancer. So you basically use your Nanites to weave magic. And I like that. That's very cool. Very cool.
I do like that the Constitution score is used in place of the Int.
Yeah, it's a con spellcaster.
Ooh, hey, now that is interesting.
Very, very much so.
I love me some con spellcasters.
There's a new faculty in here, which is very cool. You basically absorb attacks.
Oh, faculty,
that's funny. It basically turns
That's
your
why
nanites,
you have me on the show.
You do, and you do a good job with it. It basically turns your nanites into assembly ooze, where when stuff hits you, they just break it down and absorb it. It's really cool.
That's actually super cool.
There goes all your loot.
All the loot gets eaten.
I mean, that's why no one builds Thunder builds, because it's like, okay, well, there wasn't a lot of credits on this, but there was all this expensive gear. Oh, shoot. Sorry about that.
Indeed. It's very cool. Yeah, there's a couple knacks. I think there's some of them are cool. There's like one that lets you create a barrier against magical creatures. There's one that kind of feels like a knack tax. I hate to say it, where like instead of choosing Technomancer spells with an Eldritch option, it lets you pick one of the other classes spell lists, but it replaces the Technomancer stuff. So I don't think I like that very much. I would have rather the base ability just say pick a spell list. But then there's one nano magical font where you could spend nanite surges to gain spell slots. So immediately I stopped caring about that problem.
Wait, is that font for commercial use?
Absolutely. Okay. However you cast the spells,
just make sure
they can be public or commercial.
It's just like your spells rated E for everyone.
All right, I have a feeling, V, that you're going to want to talk about the operative. I just that's my gut feeling. What do you think?
Yes, very much. Okay, so let's get right into it. The operative. Operative plus magic equals magic operative. It is like the assassin, spell trickster. It has spell thief. I don't know why, but I love stealing people's spells. I think that is the rudest thing to steal. You have these sorceress-ass people who don't have to have components anymore. They're like, oh, everything's spontaneous. I don't need a spell book. I just go and I do spells. And I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to take it from you. How can you do that? It's mine. It is part of me. You're like, no, that's my spell. Thank you. That's my spell.
A great summary.
It's so dumb, but it's so good. Why don't you get into more of the specializations? Because I'm freaking out too much. It's too cool.
Yeah. So Memory Weaver is essentially a option where you twist people's memories and rewrite them. And you literally at 11th level get a specialization exploit called Rewrite Memory, where you can modify your creature's memories as if modify memory once per day. It's great. Yeah. It can do it can change 1 minute of memory instantly, unlike the spell, which is like a second per second transfer of rewriting. It's very cool. Another thing that I think
there's Daring Leap. It's an operative exploit. It's literally space jump. You just go wing and you fly. And if you like land on like a wall or something, you can jump off of that wall with a resolve point and just go wee and jump again. It's so ridiculous.
Yeah.
I've never wanted to play an operative more.
Yeah, it's very cool. There's one called Spell Sniper where normally, so it's it works with the magical assassin ability. And so normally the magical assassin doesn't really work with sniper weapons, but this option lets you not only shoot people with your magic, but and you get a very limited version of trick attack damage. Like instead of getting, you basically get one damage per die you would have rolled, and it goes up by 1 as you would level up. So you have a very small amount of bonus damage, which is something that snipers don't get. So honestly, Spell Sniper is probably one of the better sniper builds right now, just because they can get a bonus chunk of damage that a operative sniper normally couldn't have. Very cool. All right, so next up is Solarian, the class that is kind of a magic class, but also it's not really. The first thing I'm going to say is if I was playing Starfinder Society right now, I would be very excited for Broken Cycle to come out, because it's
oh my gosh, it's so good. It's so good.
Because,
oh my gosh.
Because it's essentially how I already play, not Shivi, Daxon Ray, my Skittermender Solarian.
Every Solarian I've ever seen plays this way anyway.
Right.
So let's tell them what it does. Broken Cycle. Okay, Broken Cycle. So normally, you know how Solarian is like, every time you get cool abilities, you have to go like Sun and Gravity and Sun and Gravity. And this just says, don't worry about it. Just pick one. Yeah. Whatever your favorite is, just pick that one and you're good to go. Mm-hmm. And now you can't get the other ones. So you can't be like, well, I'm 90% Gravity. Like, no, you have to just lean into it. But if you're like, I don't know, the biggest glow bug in the world and you want all of the shiny sun powers, you can just get all the shiny sun powers with no penalty.
I love this option. There's a couple lines of it that I'm worried are a little OP. The big one is multiply your Solarian level by 1.5 for the purpose of calculating your insight bonuses to reflex saves and damage rolls granted by either Graviton mode or Photon mode.
Mode.
It in addition to just like not taking away the penalty for specializing in one, it just makes you even better at it, which is cool. But like, I don't know, part of me worries that like going Broken Cycle Photon is going to be the only way to play the Solarian after this. We'll see. I might be wrong, but I mean, like the amount of bonus damage.
Okay, Graviton can do a bunch of things. It's really cool, but you're right. The amount of bonus damage is scary. But it's scary in the best possible way.
I'm not scared about it from like, don't do it. But I almost feel like, I mean, I guess the answer is that like you lose that revelation, the black hole or the other one. Yeah. But I don't know. I do have a Solarian player in Teenage Wasteland who does swap between the two rather often. He very much likes using Graviton to control the battlefield. So like, I mean, there is an opportunity cost, but like for how I play this game and considering Daxon Ray is already a little sun bug, like this is not a penalty for me. This is a buff. This is John Compton just taking the buff juice and pouring it on my Skittermander.
Basically. The other thing that's really fun is if you play a Solarian and you really like all the revelations and you feel that you don't get enough revelations, you can look at Stellar Sage that gives you bonus revelations. It's pretty cool. That's all I'll say about it. Buy the book. But it is pretty cool that you are like, oh, I want all the revelations. Get Stellar Sage.
I kind of feel like the opportunity cost is too high. One of the things V didn't mention is that it lowers your hit points from 6.
Don't worry. There's a Vanguard. They'll take the hits. It's fine. Just get Stellar Sage and get more
lowers your BAB. You only have 3/4 BAB like a Mystic.
But you want more cool abilities.
Oh. Yeah, but like a lot of them modify your attacks.
Yeah, but if it's an AoE and a reflex save, don't matter. Score don't matter.
I mean, I guess like you know what? I'm looking forward to seeing someone building this. That is not how I want to play a Solarian, but I'm looking forward to seeing someone else do it.
All right, only AoE and explode weapons. We don't care about this attack roll. Attack rolls are attack rolls are so 2021. The future is area attacks.
Okay, so I will say that at 13th level, the ability to activate 2 revelations at the same time with a single standard action is pretty crazy.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah,
that's very good.
All right. So maybe I'm wrong about this, but my initial feeling is like I don't want to play that. But that's okay. Not everything in this book needs to be for me.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's not. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Well, okay, so here's the thing. So if you wanted to play it, though, more spellcastery, they give you right off the bat as a second level Photon Revelation, basically the ability to just hurt things. You just go, hey, your body temperature is increased and you're taking fire damage. Have fun. So you could just do stuff like that. Like you just take all these other abilities that don't rely on your base attack bonus and, just have a good time.
That's fair. Hey, V.
What?
Did you see the name of the first new fighting style we're going to talk about?
Mm-hmm.
Spell Brawler.
Yeah, you're looking at the soldier, aren't you?
Uh-huh.
Spell Brawler.
Go ahead. I know you want this.
Oh my gosh.
I'm going to be a little annoyed at this section too, but please go be happy first.
If you want to be magic fighter, this Spell Brawler is for you. You're a soldier and you fight things and you're strong, but you also have an arcane arsenal. Mysticism. You can safe and it's really cool. I can't even. You can have magic armor is part of your stuff. I don't know. It's all about I'm a soldier, but I incorporate all this magic into my things like a mystical warrior. If you want to be a mystical warrior, this is how you do it.
I'm
also,
shocked.
If you want to steal people's spells.
Yeah,
I'm shocked. Yeah, I'm shocked that you didn't note that the 9th level ability is that I punch spells so hard that they break.
Yes, dispelling weapon. Yes, you literally just go. I'm just gonna punch punch spells. There was a comic I was reading. I can't remember what it was. Where basically paladin swords destroy magic, and so they cut through spells and harm spellcasters and magical creatures a bunch and all this stuff. It's pretty cool. And this would let you live out that sort of character where you're like, no, I literally just attack your spell with my weapon and then it goes away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Spell siphon is super rude. After you hurt somebody, just spend 2 resolve points. If they fail the will save, you steal their highest level spell, and if you drain it successfully, you can also make it so that you do extra damage based on the level of the spell drained. It's so rude.
That's what I mean.
So good.
Anything
Love
that takes
it.
people's spells is just hilarious. It is very rude, but it's hilarious to me.
All right.
They made spellcasters more powerful, but they also made them bigger nerds again. And I want my buff spellcasters back. Give me a dex intelligence. No, give me a strength cat. I want strong boys. Let's go.
You just want the Brock again.
I just want muscle wizards. That's all I want.
Muscle wizards. They flex and a fireball pops out. What?
Yeah, when you're carrying so many ancient tomes, it makes you swole.
And chat, Crypt Walker says that you cast fist.
So this next option is something that I love, and also makes me salty just a little bit, and I'll explain why.
I don't know how it makes you salty.
I'll explain, and you'll probably disagree with me, and that's valid. Mm-hmm. So the first thing is that there is a fighting style for Hawkeye in this called Archer, and it's incredible. I can't stress enough that this is one of the best fighting styles I've seen, because one of the things it does that I love is it gives you, at 5th level, first of all, it gives you free proficiency with bows, which is great. You can draw a bow or arrow as a swift action, or as part of the attack or full attack. So you could just have your bow on your back and be like, I shoot you, and they're gone. It's great. At 5th level, you get close combat arrows, which gives you +4 to your armor class against attacks of opportunity that you provoke by making range attacks with a bow. This stacks with Slippery Shooter, which means if you have this and Slippery Shooter, you have +8 to your armor class.
Right, it doesn't give a bonus type.
It doesn't. It stacks with Slippery Shooter. So you could just sit there in someone's face and go, I love it.
Speaking of precog, can you smell that? It smells like future errata. Yep, that's what it smells like.
No, listen, it's so good. You can't.
Yeah, no, that's what it smells like. Yeah.
No, don't do it. Just listen. It's so cool. The bow needed something like this that it could be really awesome with, because there isn't a whole lot of reason to use bows, and you want to play Hawkeye, and Hawkeye does this. I watched the new Hawkeye series. He sits in an assassin's face and shoots her, and it works.
Yeah, I mean, also you can use your arrow as a sword, like stabbing style.
Whoa.
Yeah, good. You should be able to do that.
Here's the thing I don't like. Okay. The next page has a new type of bow as a piece of equipment in the soldier section. I don't like that, because to me that feels like that space that could have been given to options, and I don't like the feel of having weapons in the actual game mechanics section. Okay. I don't know. That just might be me. It doesn't feel.
Okay. I hear you. I'm going to be the voice of player usability for a moment. Once again, you're flipping through this book, you see Soldier, you just watched Hawkeye, and you're like, oh my gosh, I want to play a bow character, but this is Starfinder and they suck. And then you see that there is an archer fighting style, and you go, wait, but there are no good bows. And they immediately show you right on the next page, and or on the same set of pages if you're looking at a physical book, hey, look, there's a bunch of new bows. And you go, oh, never mind. Cool. Now I have cool bows to choose from. I'm in. Like, let's do it.
Yeah, like, it looks like a mea culpa. Like, hey, here's what you do with this fun stuff with.
Because otherwise you might look at this and go, there's no good bows in the game. So yeah, there's a fighting style, but what am I going to do with it? And then, wait, just kidding. There's a bunch of bows. And
I would have rather seen a 2-page spread of new weapons in this book with a whole bunch of new bows. I mean, they did that in COM when they added new injection weapons for the biohacker.
You're right. It is called Galactic Weapons.
It doesn't matter though. I would still rather have it be there. Just put the weapons there.
There's not a ton of weapons here. It's fine. I think it's
it's a preference.
It's fair.
To me, it makes perfect sense because you want all the stuff out there. It's fine.
I don't want to complain about that anymore because the next section has my favorite option in this entire book. And that's
can I go back? I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, please go.
Part of 2022 is area weapons. There's a 13th level ability that lets you use a bow as an automatic or a line weapon.
Yeah, amazing.
Okay, cool.
2022 is the year of the AoE. Let's do this.
Do it.
Let's just do it.
Rain of arrows. It's basically Eldritch Archer without the hold the Eldritch.
Right.
All right. So the
Technomancer.
The Technomancer has an alternate class feature called Immortal Tutor, where you basically have an extraplanar ally who teaches you stuff. And it gives you a spell-like ability that you can cast without using your spell slots as if it were a Technomancer spell. It uses your highest level Technomancer spell, so it automatically scales up. Most of them are summon creatures, but like Aeons just give you a free fly. They just like, boom, go ahead. And they all have lessons that give you super cool special powers that you can use. They basically work instead of like the cache capacitor. This replaces cache capacitor and spell cache. It's very cool. It is almost like a Technomancer witch, but like because it's like a powerful elemental patron has honed your fundamentals. So like outsiders teach you magic and you do it, and it's so cool. Yeah, I love this.
Deific obedience.
Yes,
it reminds me a lot like that.
It's very cool. There are also,
and it's such a fun story thing too, right? If you're like, no, this is like this right here is a character concept building mechanic. So you see this and you go, oh, well, now I know I want to play a Technomancer, so I can have a little buddy that can like be on my shoulder and be like, oh, here's what you should do. And you're like, yes. Very cool.
Yes. There are 2 new cache hacks. They are very cool. I like cache hacks. Then there's a magical hack.
I just want you to say cache hacks 5 times fast.
I can't. Please don't.
Okay.
There's also a Technomantic shield where you can spend resolve to draw and gain proficiency with a magical shield. I like that. That's cool.
More shields in Starfinder.
Yes. There is a spell called Long Lasting Spell that basically turns all of your spells into Acid Arrow, where they linger and deal damage over time. It's very good. And then there's 11th level one called Critical Spell, where you just put a critical effect onto a spell. So if your spell attacks and hits and crits, you give a critical effect, and it's great. I love it. Very cool. Very good. Cool. Also, the Dragonkin on this page is also super smooth.
Very smooth. A lot of shiny folks in this book.
Lots of shinies. Does anybody want to talk about Vanguard?
I don't think I'd do it justice. I'm kind of dumb.
All right.
I'm done, but I'll talk about it.
Sure, go ahead.
So there's a new alternate class feature called Mutual Destruction. Which just makes you really hoss, but you lose a lot of defense abilities. Is that what it was? There's a lot of stuff in here. Yeah,
it trades most of the defensive powers of the Vanguard for offense. It's a lot of damage. You destroy people. It's great. Yeah. It's basically the idea is that you're getting your butt kicked, so you're going to kick butt harder and take them out first. Yes, exactly, it honestly reminds me a lot of your Vanguard in our home game.
I mean, this is one that I might slip in there just because I play her very aggressive and I'm just going to destroy everything, even though she's a Vanguard. And my initial idea was I'm going to go in there and try to destroy everything and just basically make a lot of noise and get a lot of attention and get attacked a bunch so I can survive. But now I'm like, this is actually pretty cool. Oh, the other reason is I already have an enhancement bonus to my armor class because of a feat I took. I don't need it from the Vanguard. I might as well get more offense out of it. So cool.
Definitely.
Yeah, mutual destruction is beautiful. If you want to be the type of Vanguard who's like, I am so incredibly hard to kill because chaos. Instead, you're like, no. Chaos is going to rip your stuff apart, and I'm just going to go in there and do it. Then yeah, Vanguard. And there's a beautiful new aspect called Apocalypse. I don't even care what it does. It's called Apocalypse.
They're both so good. Oh my gosh, both of these aspects are incredible. So the first thing I want to point out is that the original set of aspects had overlap in that you had like 2 or 3 of them that gave improved Sunder as a bonus feat. These two, one of them gives improved grapple. No other aspect gives improved grapple. The other one gives improved disarm, and I don't think any other one gives improved disarm. So first of all, I like them just from a conceptual standpoint of increasing, like, because you get multiple aspects as a Vanguard, and it just kind of like increases the toolkit. Apocalypse is so cool. One of the things they get is their catalyst lets them essentially explode for a damage, where they roll d6s and do damage and then put a status effect on enemies that are within their explosion. It's very cool. I love it. Rebound,
like a random status effect. It's all random. Yes. It's like, I'm just gonna do some energy stuff. I don't know what it is, but you know what?
Yes.
Screw you guys. I'm just gonna blow every foe within 30 feet, and this is why I like it a lot, because a lot of the stuff is like every creature, and you're just like, hope my allies aren't around. This one's like, no, if I don't like you and you're within 30 feet of me, you're gonna have a bad day. I don't know how it's gonna be bad until I roll this d6, but trust me, you won't like it.
Yes. I will say that Rebound is so good, I'm pretty sure that I'm going to give it to my NPC Vanguard in Teenage Wasteland. It's all about, what was that?
But is it good, or is it good but then later you regret it?
No, it's very good.
So it's not like relationships.
No. It's okay. Exactly. It's all about reducing damage to yourself and your allies. So like their embodiment lets them gain entropy points when they prevent damage to themselves or an ally. And their catalyst makes it so that you give yourself and your allies hardness, and therefore you take less damage. And then eventually when they regain stamina or hit points, they can spend entropy to also give their allies a bonus stamina or hit points. So they can just kind of like shed, like if someone heals you as a Vanguard, you could spend an entropy point and be like, aha, now everybody gains this. Like imagine, I want you to imagine that reflection, and then think about the fact that envoys get an ability where they can do an inspiring oration and heal the entire party for their inspiring boost at the same time. You could be a Vanguard, get healed by that, and then take half of your healing and reflect that onto more stamina healing for all your allies.
Yep.
It's very good.
It's very cool. And even though Vanguards are usually all about entropy and chaos, I kind of imagine this Paladin-esque sort of character, right? This like holy warrior style character that's a Vanguard, and they're hard to kill, and they're super defensive, and they're just going to lead the way for their party. And then as soon as they get healing and stuff, they're just like, no, spread it around. Everyone's going to be great. Actually, this would be a fun concept for a Caden Kalian based Vanguard, definitely, who's faithful to Caden, especially consider the direction they took him, which we will get into when we get to Faiths, even though it is late. Look at the time.
Oh my gosh, we're going strong. We only went through the class content. We'll have to go fast. Then there's a couple of new disciplines which are good. And then the one thing that I wanted to mention for Witch Warper is that they get an ability that replaces Infinite Worlds called Infinity Lash, that basically lets you spend spell slots to make a whip that you whip people with, and it does damage.
If you thought the Witch Warper was too much into other worlds and you just want a cool magic whip, then this is the option. Dominatrix Witch Warpers for the win.
I think the duration is a little bit on the low side, especially compared to Junkblade, but the damage is very comparable to Junkblade. So it's cool. I don't know how much play it'll see, but it's cool. And then there's also just a lot of really cool paradigm shifts. One of the ones that I think is very cool is Extensive Worlds, which is at 5th level. It increases the range of Infinite Worlds, which is something that I think was lacking from the base class.
The radius. Yeah.
Yeah,
because you can go to 15 feet, eventually 20, and because of how radii work when you increase it, it's actually a much bigger area. So That's pretty cool. And it's
Definitely.
canned, which is cool. So you have the option too. You don't always have to make these giant puddles of bad terrain.
Definitely. Is there anything you want to talk about Witchwarper, James, since you have a lot of Witchwarper experience?
No, I mean, a lot of the stuff is for, I think, people that wanted to play it in different ways than I do. I think there is more with like altered form, like for changing yourself, like different versions of yourself, which I think people are going to find interesting.
Yeah.
And there's also stuff that lets you like change how your spellcasting works a little bit. But I mean, it's all good in expanding what you can do with it.
Right. Now, I don't want to talk about it too much, but there are archetypes in this book there's an archetype in this book called the School Specialist, which there is a sub-selection for each school of magic. So if you're a spellcaster who wants to be really good with a specific school of magic, you can do that with this book. They're cool. I recommend taking a look at them when the book comes out. There's also a lot of new gear. There's hybrid items, there's magic items, there's weapon fusions and armor upgrades, and there's even new artifacts.
There's an extra seat. It's literally you put like a booster seat in a vehicle and someone straps in and then they go poof and they disappear, but the straps stay there. And then someone else can sit on top of where that seat was and strap in. And they're just in an extra dimensional space until you unlatch them.
That's hilarious. One thing that I wanted to mention that I think is going to see a lot of play is there are a new type of magic item called Gimmicks. They are small handheld items that spellcasters can use as focuses for their spells, and they add special effects to them. Actually, I think that the focused gimmick is going to be extremely popular because you could essentially use the focus gimmick to increase the spell saving throw DC of your lower level spells to be equivalent to higher level ones. So like you can use
which is needed.
Yeah, definitely. So it basically makes lower level spells playable in Starfinder, which is good. There's also a lot of really good ones that work like very popular meta magic feats from first edition, like targeting. Then there's also new weapon fusions. I think one that's going to be very decisive is Agile, which lets you add dex damage, but you have to make the attack as a full attack.
It takes your whole round. So imagine you do like, I always imagine with the agile ones, when you activate it, you're doing like a bunch of really fancy moves and all of a sudden, I made a real attack. And it's like, oh, okay, you were going so fast. I didn't realize that was an attack. And that's how you get your dex to damage and why it takes all around to do it.
I don't think it's going to be a very good option for melee characters, but you can put this on small arms.
Yeah.
Which small arms don't normally get to add a ability modifier to damage. I almost wish that they just left it be an operative weapon only thing and was just done with it. Like personally, I think that the full attack action is unneeded. I know why it's there. Everybody's worried about dexterity becoming the all-powerful stat for dex characters. But I feel like operative weapons already deal such lower damage that it's not even a problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, steady is also part of the 2022 plan for AoE. You add your strength to a full attack action from a weapon, range up without the thrown property. So get your explode weapon and get your muscles damage in. That's
amazing. I love that. That's super good. Very cool. There's lots of cool artifacts. We're not going to have time to talk too much about them, even though I love all of them. They're very cool and flavorful. There are 100 spells in this book, and considering it's 10 o'clock now, we are not going to be able to talk about 100 spells. So let's briefly hit on some of our highlight spells, because there's so many in this book, and there's a lot of them that are really good. Do you have any spells you want to call out, James?
The radiation beam one. I like that. That's just hilarious.
That is, I mean, microwave the magic spell is pretty great.
Yeah, just bullying people. Also negate spell. You're going to make people just hate you. That's
I like
spell that gets you punched.
This book has lots of amazing spells for precogs and witchwarpers specifically, which I think witchwarper was really needed. I think the spell list was kind of lacking. One of the ones for precog that's great is that precog has the niche of being the spellcaster that can regenerate stamina points. Blessing of Youth lets you heal stamina points to a target, and then you give them a speed bonus because they're feeling extra spry. How about you, Dave?
One that I like that's kind of silly, but also kind of cool is Swap Initiative. It's a first level spell, and you and another willing ally can just swap your initiative, and it's a reaction. So you do it when you roll initiative and are like, okay, so the whole plan when we talked about it was the soldier was going to charge in first and get everything's attention, and they rolled a 1. And so you can say, well, how about I'll just trade with you, and like I'll go last and you can just get in there. And so Swap Initiative has a lot of tactical uses, and as a first level spell, it's going to be one of those things that is useful throughout your career. And not all the time, but every once in a while you're like, come on, that just messed up our plan. Swap Initiative.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah,
it is a very good one. I agree. I like how Fluid Form essentially got brought into Starfinders because Fluid Form is great.
But just a bunch of wet people.
Yeah, and then Mystics get another single target damage spell. They get Furious Shriek, or you just do the SpongeBob Victory Shriek at somebody and do sonic damage to them. It's so good. It's so good, and it doesn't. It's not like Mind Thrust does more, but this is sonic damage. It's not, and it's also not a mind affecting effect the way that that Mind Thrust is. So like, it's a really good spell. Like just because of the fact that you could target someone and hurt them no matter what their type is. I think it's funny that Ice Prison got brought. There's a lot of spells in here that are like brought up from old editions of the game. Like Ice Prison is in this game, which is great. And then I think the only other spell that I really wanted to say was one that I was so happy to see. There's Radiation Ray. That's the one that you were talking about. That's hilarious.
Yeah. Take a bunch of damage and exposed to high radiation.
I think that, you know what, I'm going to admit that at first I wasn't a big fan of this spell, but I think that Sub-Zero Clutch is super cool. At a glance, it just kind of looks like a generic melee attack to hit AEAC, does cold damage spell, but you also grapple people with the spell. You just freeze them in ice that won't let them go. It's great. I love it.
Yeah, that's strong.
Very good. This book has variant spellcasting rules. James alluded to them earlier. There are rules that you can be a prepared spellcaster. You have fewer spells per day, but you have a spell book and you can write multiple spells in them. It's very good. There's also rules for scaling your 0 level spells up. The damage is very... Yeah, it's very comparable to a laser rifle or a pistol of the spells like rough level. It's cool. I think that they scale. It's nice.
It's always benefit.
If I'm running a game 100% of the time, I'm using this rule because then your cantrips can do something for longer. Your 0 level spells, and you don't always have to be like, I am a Technomancer. I'm a wizard of technology, and you're like, oh cool, we're in a fight. Let me get my gun. It's like no. You can just
take it out of the shrink wrap.
Yeah, that's right. Hold on.
Definitely. Then the next section is rituals.
Yes.
So first of all, let me start by saying that the ritual rules in this game are better than first edition Pathfinder or second edition Pathfinder, in my opinion. Basically, you have ritual actions. Each ritual tells you the actions that you need to do. Like there's a script you have to follow, and it tells you the actions you have to do and the skill you have to use to do it, and what happens if you fail the check. And it's just cool. All of the rituals are, not all of them, like there's one of them is faster, FTL communication, which is faster than light communication, which is a brand new. But a lot of the rituals are very smart in that they are Pathfinder first and second edition spells that presumably have been lost to the gap because they are high level spells in those games that have become rituals. A good example is Commune is a ritual. Consecrate is a ritual. Gate. They brought the fan favorite Heart Bond from second edition into the game, which is basically marriage the ritual.
I wanted to get married, but somebody dispelled the wedding. No.
The one thing that I'm not sure, reincarnation is a 4th level ritual. And reincarnate is a spell in Starfinder. So the two effects are pretty much the same. Like I have to read it over closely, but at a glance they look the same.
I think it's just another way to get it. I think it's fine.
Yeah.
The more interesting thing to me is FTL communication. It's a 4th level ritual, but it opens up so many RP implications because one of the things you had before this existed was you have to send a courier with information from this infosphere to that one so you can send information, or you have to send it over all these relays, right? It's like it's going to take a while for the message to get there. And if you're trying to control news or some information from spreading, you can follow the data through the relays and get it, right? If you're fast enough, you can intercept it. This is just like, hey, I'm just going to open a portal to the other world and just whoop, send them information. And now I can imagine that any magically inclined major civilization is going to have a few people that can pretty reliably do this ritual, so that if all of a sudden they're like, so Vesk 1 is under attack, get your ass back here. They can just start opening portals and doing rituals and getting their big fleet ships back and stuff. Starting to call their allies. There's some really big RP implications for that existing.
There are. It's very interesting. Especially because faster than light community that travels, it only takes a minute. Like, it doesn't take very long. It's a minute per action, essentially. So, like, it's very doable. It definitely makes me think that, like, in Starfinder, you probably, like, if governments don't train ritualists to cast these spells, like, they're crazy.
Yeah, and it's only 25 words. It's essentially sending. But they do give you different times. The longest is 5d6 hours if you're going to the vast, but oh no, it would be taking that many 5d6 days. So it's 24 times faster than if you sent a ship or just a FTL communication through the relays. Like, it's crazy fast.
So the next section, there are 2 more sections left in this book. They are all story focused, I guess. They're flavors focused, essentially. The first one is about faith. It's a big article about what religion looks like in the universe. All of those very cool alternate rules that James mentioned before about, like, divine weapons and whatnot are in here. And there is articles for not only every Starfinder god, but there are a number of additional gods that get articles and write-ups too.
Can I just say, I am super enjoying what they've done with a bunch of old Galarian deities, and I just want to, like, blast through them really fast, if that's cool.
Ergothoart art, show.
I will get there, I promise. I'm going to go in order. I'm going to start with Desna. Instead of, like, this, like, beautiful butterfly woman, it's literally just a big old moth. And I love that in this new Cantina world, Desna is literally just a moth. I'm like, oh, I'm just a big fluffy moth. I'm so pretty.
She's like the Cantina Fey race.
Yeah.
She looks kind of like. I like it. I love the picture for the Devourer. It's not an actual picture of the Devourer. It is like an artist depiction of what the Devourer looks like. I love the idea that even the faithful don't know what the Devourer looks like.
Like, I don't know, maybe this blob of energy that destroys stuff? Okay, but on the same spread, and take a look. I have it up on the screen right now. Oloritu. Oloritu is a god of history, magic, and secrets. So I'm going to put my tinfoil hat on for a second. History, magic, and secrets. The name is the hidden truth, and the art has them holding this what looks to me like an iron mask. Did Razmir finally do it? That's my big question. I've been reading through this entry, and I don't see any hints that I'm picking up on. So maybe I'm just daft, but I'm like, is this a Razmir reference? Did Razmir finally figure out actual immortality and become a deity sometime during the gap? That's my headcanon until proven otherwise.
It does say he is an ancient deity whose faith predates the gap, and we would assume that Razmir does do that. I would be terrifying if this was. I would not, because isn't he neutral? I thought Razmir was lawful evil in Pathfinder, but I mean, maybe he reformed. Maybe he caused the gap and he reformed and repented because of it.
And it's like, oh shoot. But history, because like forever ago, magic, sure, high level wizard, and then secrets, because don't tell people you're Razmir and you had this cult, because that was kind of a bad idea. I'm just saying. All right, a couple of other ones I want to look at. Iomade, she looks so cool. One of the coolest things is it talks about how with the gap and the disappearance of Galarian, Iomade went and just kind of became the god of humanity, because humanity doesn't have a planet anymore, and so they're kind of like loose threads. Like, sure, they get Absalom Station, but like they don't have like a home world really anymore, just a space station. And so she's sort of just fully taken on the mantle of goddess of humanity, instead of just being the inheritor from Eridan. It's kind of a cool progression. So I really liked that story.
I think that Narlotep is cool. I just love that art where all of his tentacles inside of the spacesuit that's like clearly like deformed and like only partially fold.
It's so gross.
For me, I don't know. Have you seen Oris's art? Oris's art is great. It's like what I think a biblical angel looks like. So cool. He's like this dude who is like floating in the middle of a thing. He has no head, but he has like an orb with runes on it. And he's surrounded by a mantle of like writhing appendages from all sorts of different animals. It's so cool. I love it so much.
All right. By popular demand, here is the Ergothoart art. She is so cool. A better way to show her art is on the cover. Let me grab that. Like the inside cover has a big old Ergothoart. But I gotta adjust some stuff here.
So cool.
All right, she's gonna be at the beginning of the table of contents, but it's super cool. Look at her. She's like got like a top half is a spacesuit and her bottom half is still gross and undead, and then she has this just like f off giant scythe and with energy. It is.
It is amazing. I've been playing a lot of Doom Eternal, and it just gives me Doom Eternal vibes.
So this section also has different write-ups for a whole bunch of different gods. Like we mentioned, Cade and Kaleen essentially like got depressed because of the gap and then turned around and went to try to help people like recover from that trauma, which is cool.
Yeah.
I like Asmodius's. Asmodius basically says that the reason Asmodius isn't a core deity anymore is because the gap caused so many of his contracts to become corrupted by missing information that his prominence fell. That's so cool. That's so cool.
It is the nerdiest way to fall. You're like, well, like it's all my contracts are messed up and a bunch of them are rendered invalid. And so all the like political leverage and capital I had is gone. I think it's super cool.
Yes.
But I really do like Caden. Caden basically went not only just like, I'm the party god, dude, but now he's like, no, like festivals and cheering and happiness. Absolutely, yes. But also like there's a lot of people that have had like substance abuse issues and have been harmed. And like he and his church are actively going and helping people who are in need. And it is amazing, which is why I said with that Vanguard who like spreads the healing around and helps their allies is like the best Caden character anyway. Don't lean into the, party bro aspect of Caden. Now you have this wonderful, beautiful, tender, loving aspect of Caden who's like, hey, let's just help people. Like there's a bunch of people who need help and we could totally do it. So why don't we do that? And so I think Caden Kaelian went from bro to himbo in like the span of the gap. And it's wonderful.
Nice. I agree. There's also a lot of like very small paragraphs that lack a lot of the playable rules, but just descriptions and acknowledgements that they exist. You have ancestral deities, which include like the dwarf god Engrid. You have Callistra is here for elves. There's a god of Dragonkin who's the god of partner bonds, which is pretty cool. There's a couple different Eldists. There are some Elder Mythos deities. One of them seemingly confirms that Cthulhu is still asleep in the far-flung future, which is very interesting to me. There's a whole bunch of popular like imperial lords and the like under a section called outsider deities. Then there's write-ups for different like philosophies, which is cool. There's like one of them is brand new. It's called the Parallel Truths, which sounds very like conspiracy theory is to me. There's also one called the Singularitism and the Song of Silence. I love that name, by the way. It makes me think of the Song of Silence. And then the final section in the book is called The Magical Galaxy. And it's a whole bunch of write-ups that describe what a galaxy in the far-flung future with magic is like. There are magic schools, there are factions, then there are phenomena. And the phenomena are pretty cool. Did you guys get a chance to read them?
No, but I do want to shout out Magical Institutions is in here and the Arcanumarium exists, so I'm happy. Also, in that other god section, Arshay exists, so I'm happy.
Yeah, definitely. Good. Arshay is a very good deity to make sure that you bring forward because Arshay is very body positive, and I think it's something that the far-flung future needs.
Yep.
And then magical phenomenon include. All right, so picture a black hole has a singularity, right? So now imagine instead of gravity being a singularity, alignment is a singularity. So the closer you move to the singularity, the more matter itself is warped to be that alignment. So like if you get close to an evil singularity, it's like the movie Event Horizon, where like everything just starts getting warped and twisted and barbed and evil. But then like there's even one for good, where like if you're in a good singularity, everybody just gets over the top altruistic. Oh, thank you so much for opening the door for me. I would give my life for you. That's such a kindness.
I think I live in one of those.
Yeah. Is it the chaos singularity?
Probably, actually, yes.
There's one called drift thinning, which is essentially places in the drift where it's not really the drift, it's in the material plane, but it's places where starships have jumped so frequently that the barrier between the material plane and the drift has started to thin, which is scary. It makes me wonder what's going to happen with that upcoming drift crisis. Now that there's a little paragraph here, I'm on to you. I'm on to you. There's also Eldritch Clouds of Magics, and then it talks about like what the intergalactic void is like, null space, things getting broken, crazy stars. Like there's a lot of just really cool high fantasy magic space stuff. That's just neat. I really like it. Also, there's an entire write-up on the Shadow Planes version of outer space, the Shadow Space.
Oh my gosh, I got to write a scenario with Shadow Space, and it is a creepy, weird place. Let me tell you, you do not want to go there. So when the drift crashes and the Chthonites are like, we have a special drive that just goes through Shadow Space. You'll be fine. Do not go. Cancel your plans. Get your money back.
Yeah, no, James and I learned that the hard way. We played Signal of Screams, which has a part that goes through Shadow Space. Yep. Yeah, it's spooky. Very spooky.
It's not a good place to be. No.
Yeah. And that's our review of Galactic Magic. So we are about 18 minutes over. So quickly, what do you guys think of this book?
I like it.
I love it. Starfinder has been very techno, very like, yeah, we have spaceships and all this tech stuff and whatever, and a million species, but like, there's kind of magic or something, whatever. And this really brings magic to the forefront in a way I think is important to the setting to say, no, there is magic and it is important in people's lives, and it is every day as much as a calculator is. It exists, and there's like, wizards walking around the station, but they're just have a fancy tablet and wristwatch or something rather than like arcane books. It's really
I agree completely. I think to me that this book understands what makes Starfinder different from things like the Expanse RPGs, the Star Wars RPG, the Star Trek RPG. Like it's so good. It understands like, hey, we are a magical setting. Magic is a fundamental fact of life in Starfinder. What does that mean for the characters who come here, who live here, who play here, who fight here, and what does that mean for the world? It's a great book. It's very high quality. There are a couple places where I think it's a little rough around the edges, like I talked about throughout the review. But overall, like this is a wonderful book. I actually like this one better than Tech Revolution personally. And Tech Revolution was pretty good.
I think Tech Revolution was great, but it also leaned more into the space high tech future part of sci-fi that Starfinder has, and this really is almost like the yin to its yang in terms of a companion piece where you've got like, oh no, but here's the magical side. And it really makes me want to run one of these like, well, I run too much stuff. It makes me want to play one of these like space magic-y games where there is a some sort of weird singularity or rift or something bizarre so that you can sort of get into like, oh, magic has gone wacky and we have laser guns, but the magic. Also, I need two other people that want to play two other Sisters of Time with me. Just saying.
It's magic girls all the way down. So what did you think, James? What's your final thoughts? I
like that it gives me more options to bully wizards.
You gotta bully those wizards. I like to think that like in the cyber star chamber, because I mean obviously all of the designers aren't really in person anymore.
Sure.
But in cyberspace where they're getting together, they're putting this together. I could just imagine John Compton like rubbing his hands together, going, "Yes, how do we bully those foolish technomancers and those arrogant mystics who think that I can't stop them? I mean, we can't stop them." And then Thurston Hilton goes, "Yes, how do we make their life terrible? And then Joe's like, "Guys, don't you think maybe we should be kind to the spellcasters?" "No, make them suffer." And then you have all these great things that completely obliterate spellcasters, and they're like, well, maybe we should give them some nice toys too. So here are toys. It's a good book. I like it. I hope this encourages design to see more magic in it. I think that it's very easy to get into that trap of just running Starfinder as a tech future setting and not as a let's put the wizards on everything setting.
Absolutely.
All right. So thanks for joining us on No Direction Beyond, our first episode of 2022. We hope you enjoyed this show. And if you want more great No Direction content, please follow our blogs at nodirectionpodcast.com. We have new blog content every single day. It's also where all of our episodes get uploaded when they're finished, as well as on our like podcast streams and whatnot. And we'd love to have you. And it's, in addition to loving to have you, we have a Discord. It's like the chillest place where you can go and hang out and talk about Starfinder and Pathfinder, and more likely Starfinder if you're listening to this show.
Yeah.
We hope to have you there.
All the finders.
It's great. You can also, we should also shout out to stuff, right? Like, I know V probably has something she wants to start out before, because V has a new role. She's all powerful now.
Well, I got a couple things. So I am one of the hosts of the No Direction Vanilla cast, where we talk about the pathfinding, yeah, so come check us out. We're on Mondays now, a new night, still every other week. So this will be the next coming week. If you're listening to this, is the 24th, where we'll be talking about finders. So do that. And the other thing I want to shout out to, which is also a bit of shameless self-promotion, is Vellum and Lace, which takes place in Absalom, not Absalom Station, although I am planning on writing some fiction for Starfinder when I can get some spoons and some time. It's all planned out. I outlined it on my phone. I was just talking in traffic and I just dictated the whole thing to my phone. So it must be brilliant, because everything that you think of when you're stuck in traffic is brilliant. But yeah, go check out Vellum and Lace on Pathfinder Infinite. It is a hilarious story, and tragic and touching, of these two sisters who move into Absalom and get into a bunch of trouble.
Well, if you're going to self-promote, then I'm going to throw out there that since the last time we've had this show, I wrote a Pathfinder Infinite product called Kitsune of Galarian, where I wrangled a whole bunch of famous Pathfinder 2nd edition freelancers and put them together and had them write all about different Kitsune ethnic groups and different things that Kitsune do across the world. If that sounds interesting to you, I would love to sell you a copy of my book, Wink. So go check it out on pathfinderinfinite.com. I think it's still the #1 top seller currently, but we'll see how long that lasts. There's some really good stuff that's coming out pretty soon. And
I didn't know
James,
you like Kitsune.
Oh my God, I never. I'm definitely not pulling out my phone right now and starting to write ideas for Kitsune and Starfinder, but it's really hard because like Starfinder kind of does away with ethnic groups, so I don't really know what to like write about it. So I don't know. I haven't decided what I'm going to do. But okay. James, I see that you've promoted something in our chat live. Do you want to promote that now?
Oh, just our Discord and our Patreon.
Yeah, we have a Patreon. If you think that we're awesome and you think that we should get money so that we can do cool shows and provide awesome coverage to special events and whatnot, please consider following us on Patreon and giving us a donation. Every bit helps. We use that money to get new recording equipment for our staff, cameras, microphones, all that stuff. One of the things that Param does is that when we get new staff members and we bring them aboard, Param actually works very hard putting together we call it like a welcome package, and they get like a microphone and a camera and like a starter thing. And it's very helpful to the new people who might not know if like the streaming is their thing. And it's very helpful to us to have a Patreon to help us support making sure that our staff can provide high quality content for our listeners and our readers.
And we're really close to a big goal. If we just get another $40 a month on there, we'll get to our next big goal called Dimension Door, which helps our staff get to various conventions once we're all back in person, of course, so that we can record and bring all of those lovely, lovely seminars to you.
Hopefully we give Param the dimensional agility feat, because otherwise there's a teleportation sickness that's really nasty.
I'm sure he has it, honestly. It's Param.
It is Param. But again, thanks for joining us on No Direction. It was wonderful to have you, and always. And so until next time, go beyond with No Direction.